This is Jean and Susie, and this is our fishing, camping, hiking adventure to Medicine Bow National Forest this past weekend. We left on a Friday afternoon and came back on Sunday night. We had originally intended to go to the Beartooth Lake Campground just south of the Montana border, but the weather was not cooperating. Our next choice was to head to the Bighorn National Forest and go to Lake McLean. During the week, that looked like a good option, but by the weekend, it was raining there also. So we headed off instead to the Medicine Bow National Forest at the southern part of the state, a 4.5-hour drive from home. When we arrived, the Brooklyn Lake Campground was full. We drove around to some other beautiful campgrounds, which were also full, and eventually we found an even better remote camping spot. We woke up Saturday morning and headed out from the Brooklyn Lake Campground on our trek to Lost Lake. From Lost Lake, we were to turn left and head to Scott Lake to do some golden trout fishing. Unfortunately, right around Lost Lake, we got off track and did a little mountain climbing and cliff climbing in order to arrive at Scott Lake where we had lunch. This is the elevation map of the intended route up to Lost Lake and then on to Scott Lake. And this is the elevation route that we ended up taking when we made a wrong detour to Scott Lake. This is a panoramic view of the area as we were climbing up to Lost Lake. View is incredible, and it's a little bit of a hike, but it was a beautiful, beautiful journey. On the way back down the mountain, it started to rain, but we were still able to see the beautiful vistas, and were even treated to seeing 3 bull moose and other amazing wildlife on the way. Back at camp, this is me trying to get dry and warm next to the fire with a delicious cup of hot chocolate. This is our accommodations for the evening. We camp in the back of our truck with our baby Bella. And why would you go camping in the rain? Well, in the morning, this was the beautiful view that we were treated to. Sunday morning, we decided to head off to the Encampment River and go fishing instead of taking another hike, and we made several stops along the way. We stopped at St. Albans Chapel in the Snowy Range. It is an open-air outdoor chapel that was built in 1940. We attended church service there on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, and there were about 20 people in attendance. It was a beautiful service, but mostly it was a beautiful view from the cathedral. This is a view of the open-air chapel with the attendees and the inspiring view beyond the chapel. Our second stop was this lookout point, looked like a castle, and when you climb to the top, you can see all of the mountain ranges all around the area. Our next stop before we headed off to encampment was Mirror Lake. It was extremely impressive to see how well cared for the area was and the amenities that were provided to allow people to visit the area, walk back and forth between the lakes. There were people canoeing and paddle boarding. It was just a wonderful, wonderful area and truly beautiful vistas. is the beautiful Encampment River right by the Encampment River campground, where we stopped and Jean and Bella did some fishing for several hours. After fishing, we headed off to the Hobo Hot Springs in Saratoga, about 30 minutes away. This is the main pool with the lobster pots in the corner. This is the pool that we were in. It was much cooler at 108 degrees. And also out in the river, they have created some ponds that are cooler for people to swim in. After enjoying our soak in the Saratoga Hobo Hot Springs, we were headed home, about 3.5 hour drive, when we learned that we were on I-80 and Danny was also on I-80 about an hour away. We asked if he wanted us to come back his direction and have dinner with him, but he is determined to get to Washington State as quickly as possible. Our final stop on the way home was a restaurant called Cactus Jack's. They had good food and good prices and beautiful metal art. But one of the most interesting things was the antique cigarette machine that was there in the lobby. Thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it and would like to see more of our hiking, fishing, and camping adventures, please subscribe.